Okay. All right. All right. Good evening, everybody. You are listening to PhillyFunkRadio.com, and you are also checking us out on the Facebook page for myself, Mr. Jerry Wilson, as well as the Power WVSR YouTube page, Facebook, YouTube, and we're live on the radio. So we're about to do our nightly program, the Daily Update, where we basically talk about what's going on in the news. If you would like to comment, you could comment through chat. You could go to look up Power WVSR on YouTube, or look up Jerry Wilson on Facebook, or Philly Funk Radio. So let's get into the show. So on our line, of course, as always, we have Mr. Van Stone, and we are joined also by Antoinette. Van, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, and of course I want to give that shout out back to the colleagues. We have Antoinette here, the face behind. We're trying to give her one of our titles. I'm the face behind the voice. You're the face behind the camera. David Anthony, who's not here at the moment, he's the face behind the mask. So we're going to go with Antoinette as the face behind the fashion for the moment, anyway. So we're sitting here at 7:01, Philadelphia. You can see I'm rolling down my pants here. So this is live, and this is how it go, which is wonderful. I wanted to start out with a topic. The weather is great here, of course. We're supposed to get 60 degrees. We still haven't got it, but still pretty nice. You need a light jacket, just so you know. And this evening, temperatures will drop a little bit. I don't know what's going on in the East Coast. The West Coast, but we're in the East Coast, and so we're pretty comfortable here. But the topic I had in mind, I'm going to jump right into it, is basically what's happening with the financial. So I always talk about health, financial, and consumer, HFC. Today I want to talk about finance, and we'll drop it back to whatever your main topic is, Jerry, too. We don't have to jump right into what I want to talk to right now, but I just want to let the listeners and the viewers, I do have a point to talk about when it comes to finance. So back to you, Jerry.
Okay. Well, what I did want to do is this is actually one of the first times we are actually simulcasting, broadcasting on both radio as well as social media TV. So for the people who are actually listening out there all over the world, what's going on right now is I am actually live in the studio, but here in the United States, Philadelphia in particular, which is where we are practicing social distancing. So the people that you hear, Van as well as Antoinette, we are on video. So if you're looking at us on video, you will be able to see each person. But if you're listening, that's why some of the audio may sound different, because we are practicing safe social distancing guidelines right now. So I wanted to welcome Antoinette on the line. Antoinette, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm good. I'm hanging in there. How everybody on the team doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. You know, could be doing better, but could be doing worse. So you got to
Yeah.
take it for what it is, right?
Yep.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up was, and you guys can comment on this. As you know, here we got stimulus checks about a month ago. It was $1,200, and what the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and the Democrats are proposing is another round of stimulus checks. This second round of stimulus checks would be part of a $3 trillion coronavirus aid package. The original one was $2 trillion. This one's $3, and will also hopefully expand unemployment benefits, hopefully to the end of the year, as well as, again, like I said, the extra $1,200. So starting with Van and going to Antoinette after that, I wanted to get you guys' opinion on that.
Okay, well, basically that was, surprise, surprise, the same topic that I wanted to get into. So let's get the numbers out there. They're going to need more than $3 trillion. I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but they're going to do something. But let's break this down, which could be good news for many Americans. So what they're trying to do is they're going to this time give $2,000 a month to every American. Okay, and this basically is what's needed based on the COVID-19. It's still not enough. It's nowhere close to enough. But if you are bringing in an income $134,000 or less, then you will qualify. Okay, you will qualify. So that means that regardless, as I always say, in America there's only two races, black and white. The rest, everyone is under a culture. So regardless of your race, this would be different. Every American would get $2,000 a month. Even if you don't have a social security number, but you are considered a citizen. That's why this one is going to be different. It's going to be different. Before, you had to have a social security number. You definitely had to have a birth date identification so that they can find you. This package here, regardless if you have a social security number or not, every person who's considered an American citizen will get $2,000 a month. Now, so if you're with someone as a couple, married, that's $4,000. And the other thing is, this is the part that's the debate. So in the first wave that was passed, the economic, it was $500 per child. This is what they're fighting about, and this is very, very interesting. For every child on this package, it's also going to be $2,000 per child. So up to 3 children though only. So if you're a family of 5, then you're going to get 6,000 plus you get the other 2, and that is going to be pretty good. But for a family who makes $134,000, basically they're doing the math. They're trying to match the people who make the most money. So we can talk about it because I have some other points, but I just wanted to bring those facts out, and then I have some comments on it.
Well, I did want to ask you, how would they? Something that I kind of got to ask you to elaborate on is you said that anyone that's a citizen but does not have a social security number. So wouldn't you have a social security number if you are a citizen? And I'm saying that because I know of 3 people who actually went and got U.S. citizenship, and even during the process, the first thing they do is issue you a social security number when you start the process. So are you speaking of actual citizens, or are you speaking of undocumented citizens?
No, I am speaking of citizens. So this is the thing, and really getting all of the right information. Black media is so special and important because we, mostly Black Americans, regardless of your skin color, in our view or my view, There's so much information that is not put out correctly on purpose by the government. And I'm answering your question, but I gotta say this first so you can understand. Most people who come from a different country, once they come here into America, they are forced to check or be recognized, identified as white. A lot of people don't know that. So when you see an Arab, a person who's from the Middle East, they come into the country. In order to get in here, you're forced to identify as white. Okay, so now that is how I'm answering your question sort of backwards, but I think that is so important for everyone to understand that. So because race is the most important thing in America, although they always try to play it down as if black people were the ones that always play the race card, the number one thing for America is race, as you can see. Because when you have people coming to the country, they want to identify them as white so they can keep up as what? The majority. That's why we always continuously are the minority. Now, in order to come into the country, the first step is not you get a social security number. They hold that also, two things as their power card. One is your race identification. Two is your social security number identification. So when the people are in the country, remember, as soon as they get on this side, for whatever reason, they are Americans. This is how this is done. So they don't really need a social security number to be considered an American. So you have so many people here who don't have a social security number, and yet they're here, they're recognized, their children are here, and the children are in school, and so forth and so on. That's why if you don't really pay attention, it sounds kind of weird a little bit. When the first stimulus came out, they made it clear. If you didn't have a social security number, you couldn't get this money. So here the country always separate people. That's their business, but if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't know that. So that's the direct answer, so we can get this accurate. So if a person told you, Jerry, by the time they may have been ready to become a citizen, that means their first step, they have to get a green card first, and they have to apply for it, and they have to qualify for it, and they have to take a test for it. Then the other part is, after you get the green card, then you get to apply for a social security number. That's what all this money stuff is about. So that's really the accurate answer. Great question, though.
So another question I would have is, do you happen to know offhand, so logistically, how would they issue payments to everyone that does not have, how do I put this? How would you issue a payment to someone who's not technically on the government books? How would you do that?
Well, they are on the books. If you look at what I just said, I'll go back and explain the first step. Every person that comes in here, first step, as they consider them immigrants or not, doesn't matter. You come from a different country, the first thing they get is your birth date. So every person here who belongs here, your birth date is in the system. That's the big deal. So you don't need a social security number to be identified. That's why most of the time the first question they ask you, what's your birth date? Your name goes with your birth date. And therefore, if they set up a website the same way as they simplified it for people who didn't do their taxes, they just put in their social security number and their name. In this case, basically, they have all the names of everyone who's here. And I guess if there's a scenario where the person is not sure, there will be some type of website where people will just put their name and their birthday. And that's how the money will go to them.
Okay. Antoinette, I wanted to get your opinion about this proposed extra stimulus. Now, I didn't hear anything about the extra, about the 2,000. What I was specifically mentioning was that they're proposing an extra 1,200.
Yeah, my question is regarding the first stimulus, the errors that they did. Some people did not get their checks as of today, and some people have gotten checks that were deceased. Some people have gotten checks that in the wrong accounts. So my thing is this going to repeat itself during the second stimulus if there is one?
Well, I
Okay.
think what they're trying to do is I did see and read some stuff earlier where, to your point, Antoinette, they did say that yes, a lot of deceased people were getting the checks, and some people that some people got double. Some people got a direct deposit and they got a paper check. So before they issue a second round, I guess they're trying to work on those bugs right there. And what I looked at the IRS website this morning, and they did say that if you were one of the people that received a double check, obviously to return it, or don't return it and make sure that you put it on your next return as a tax liability so they can withdraw it. Bottom line is, if they overpaid you, they're gonna get their money back. So I think they are
Yes.
working on that right now to try to get that settled because, like you said, some people still didn't get it. I know the majority of people for direct deposits, they received it already. The ones that haven't received it yet are a lot of paper check recipients. I know a couple of people who received paper checks and they're still waiting. And the IRS said a month and a half ago, based on the amount of people in this country, that they could only process for so many a day, and that everybody by the first week of June.
Right. Okay. And I know
Okay.
another thing due to the coronavirus, a lot of people's student loans, federal student loans that was in default, um, they might be reissuing their refunds back as well. I found that out from someone that I know today. Her tax return was offsetted due to a default student loan. So she got notification back from the government stating that they would refund her offset student loan just due to the coronavirus. So a lot of
Okay.
people is getting relief from that as well.
So, Jerry, is my mic still hot?
It's hot.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. So that's why I wanted to. Okay, so let me jump in behind what was stated. All right, two good points here. Um, the things that's going to go wrong, yes, it's going to go wrong again. That's how the government works. Okay, right now the government is just terrible. This is what it's exposing, that this country is not number one, and all this stuff that they've been saying has just been nonsense. It's always been nonsense. But that's just the propaganda. You hear them first say, we're the best country, we're the best country, we're this and that. Now, okay. Now that this time, finally, our top political people who have been working hard for us, we have to commend our black politicians at the top. And this is what I try to explain to those who want to view this later, or if you catch up and listen to this at what time you just happen to catch Van Stone saying different things about money. I hope that you pay attention to how this country is run. That's part of the problem. Most of us who just don't pay attention, then we come to find we have to ask questions, and then it's basically, what am I going to get? What is it for me? And I don't pay attention to anything else. But that's a mistake. That's a mistake. And that's why when I earlier answered your question and told you some information, it's been there, it's not a secret. It's just that most of us as black Americans, unfortunately, we don't know what this is with an attitude. But sometimes the black Americans, you're your own worst enemy, or we are our own worst enemy, because we just refuse to sit down and just absorb. And we just won't. We just so an emotion of trying to get things done, which we think is so important. When what we're talking about here, your whole function, now you can see without this government, you can't function. That's what this whole thing is proving. Without the federal government, nothing can happen. So yes, things are going to go wrong if they pass whatever it is that they're going to try to come up with. But however, the majority of people are going to get the money. Now, when it comes to if someone has received that stimulus and they got it anyway, and some people got it double, the thing is to hold on to the money. That's really what is the thing is, because it's all legal. So we wanna make sure we're not giving out the wrong information, as in the sense of we heard this, we heard that. Not that any of us are doing it here. That's why we're coming together to make sure everything we're saying, all of it fits and it all makes sense. So eventually, if the IRS discovers, that's the thing, if they discover that they sent money out to someone who was deceased, then they will notify you. But with so much going on, they may never really discover that. And if they don't discover it, there's no point in notifying the IRS, because this money is unique money. That's what people have to really get and understand. This is different than any type of money that has been sent out before. The main thing right now, they need the country to survive. So if you get the money, that's good, because the money is going to be put back out in the community anyway, right? So don't panic. If you get extra money, don't worry about it. Don't feel like, you're going to get in trouble. You're not. And just keep the money. That's what you do. If you are contacted, like Jerry said, if you are contacted, then you deal with that at that time. Now, so at this point, there's no further recommendations. I would say, don't do this, keep the money, do all that. I don't think that's what we need to concentrate on, because most people right now, you're doing so bad. Any money you get, use it. Use it in the right way. You have no choice. That's what this is about.
Well, see, my concern. Sorry,
Go ahead.
my concern would be is if you got a payment that you were not supposed to get, technically, and you were to use that payment, you were to cash that check. Technically, you would be committing tax fraud. So I just want to make sure to tell people, don't get yourself jammed up either.
No, that's two different things. That's why I'm agreeing with you. That's what I'm saying. When we speak, as the viewer listen, they're going to say, does this go together? Okay, it goes together. So that's a whole different thing. If you're being criminal and you're doing something you're not supposed to do, yes, that's where you're committing a crime. But you're not being criminal. If you receive the money and you receive a check and you receive somehow a direct deposit from the stimulus, that is not being criminal at all. It's not. And in that sense, you are to take the money, use the money, because even if it is discovered later, okay, the money came out, and at this time you got this money, it's not going to be a situation where the IRS is going to send agents after you as if you committed a crime. This is very, very important, because all of this money, the government wants it spent. That's what's most important. We don't have enough money to save anything. And we're talking about the citizens compared to the businesses. That's the problem. The government is at war with the big businesses. They're not at war with the actual citizens, because the citizens, this is not their fault. No citizen, regardless, is to blame for this. And so, because this is so critical, this is the way your mindset should be with this money. Now, I wanted to say something else, because the great question was if they do the new package. The new package they're strongly working on is not a one-time. That was the one-time, the $1,200 one time. $500 if you have a child. The reason why they're working on this package, which is every month, up until the crisis is over, and 3 months after it is announced that the crisis is over, that money will still come out. The reason why they're working on that is because every American is in danger. Regardless of how much money you have, you're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of money because they're going to have to continue to keep this in a stay-at-home situation. The government has the money. So if they don't do this, it will be the government who will be responsible for basically the fall of all of the citizens. So I know people are not into history that much, but I think this is very important. If you go back into history, where you talk about the other country, where you had the revolution in France, and a lot of people are familiar with Louis and his wife, Louis the 13th, Louis this, whatever, one of the Louis. The main point was this very situation happened then. And what happened was the people rose up and they broke in and got to the leaders of the country and they killed them. And rightly so, because basically they didn't care about the people. They put the people in this situation, and it was so bad. People were starving, and I mean, it was just really horrible. So now, right now in America, we are going that way. We are going that way. Even though we have internet technology, a lot of people are in some serious trouble right now. Serious. They can't get a hold of food. We're not enough food. You have the cruelty of people who don't care. They're still evicting them, even though you have all the laws in place. They're not obeying the law. So when you have that, there's not enough policing from the top. Your local government. There's not enough policing to stop the bad people from doing what they're doing. So the answer is you have to give the regular citizens money. At least finally someone as a whole or group of people will finally see the common sense of that. But the downside, when I did the numbers, think about it. The numbers is if you're making $134,000 a year, the government is still concentrating on those people as more important than all of us. Although you have this fraudulent saying we're all in this together, we know that's a lie because we're not. Because you have mainly the Black Americans and you have the Hispanic and Latino culture suffering the worst in everything from this virus, dying the most, falling out of money the most, dealing with all the kind of problems, psychological, anything they could come up with. So at the highest, the Black Americans are just really suffering compared to this virus. You have the white Americans who are doing somewhat better, but it is getting so bad now. So what's going to happen is they have to take care of all of these people. And the way this is set up, it's still going to be the same way. So for an example, if you are a Black male, you're still going to be crushed because most Black men, when you deal with child support payments and so forth, you have like 75% of Black males who are caught up. Whatever the new wave of stimulus comes in, those Black males, if they owe child support payment, they're not going to get that money until first all that payment is taken. Women though, however, Black women in particular and other women, that's why they're the highest in business in the country, because they have the kids. The majority of them have the kids. So just imagine one woman who has 3 kids, that's a family of 4, she's going to get $8,000 a month, okay? So when you add that up, that's close to $100,000 a year for all of the women. If you count all these women in America who have this kind of situation, it's going to change the dynamics again, and it's going to be another him versus her situation, which is going to be terrible. And again, we already have so many problems where there's a divide. Now, but who will it help? It will help people who are on disability, people who are getting Social Security, and veterans. It will help them because they already have some type of income. So whatever that $2,000 a month is, it will be added on to their income. So as you can see, it's still going to be a bad situation, not really bringing the citizens in the country together. But we do need it to happen anyway, and we hope that it does happen. So I wanted to explain that part. I think that's going to be very, very important. And, the reason behind their madness and what they're doing.
All right, well, let's take a small break, at least for 1 minute right here. Coming up later, we have a video from, forgot where the guy is, I think Little Rock, Arkansas. He's an artist named Bray Linney. I actually communicated with him earlier, and we're going to play his video at the end of our program today. It's called Mick Show. So stay tuned for that. We're going to take a small break, and we'll be right back.
Mom, I got it. What are you doing in there?
I got slapped.
Oh. Are you a dog?
I wouldn't do that. Have you seen the pliers? Where'd you find those?
It's not your birthday.
Sorry.
Bye, Grandpa.
Bye, Grandpa.
Take care of yourself.
What are you doing? What are you looking for?
The world is talking about coronavirus, but it's hard to know what to listen to. We have answers to your questions like, who's most at risk for coronavirus? People over 65. People with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes. People undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people. Avoid crowds. Stay home if you can. Wash your hands frequently. Learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov. Together, we can help stop the spread.
All right, we are back right here on this beautiful Tuesday evening, and we have, again, on our line, if I could get this back on real quick, we have, of course, Van, and we have Antoinette. So let's go back, if this works. I'm having small issues. My switcher. I have a switcher over here that's kind of acting haywire right now. Okay, so you guys should be back on. Van.
Okay, I'm here. Van Stone, Power WBSR 1360 on Philly Funk Radio. Of course, we're here with our team, Antoinette, the face behind the fashion, until she tells us whatever other view she wants to be known as the face behind. I'm the face behind the voice. David Anthony's out here. He's the face behind the mask. And, of course, Jerry Wilson, face behind the camera. Just wanted to give a little shout out to David Anthony. We have been working on his project, which is the Mickey J Project, a.k.a. Mickey J, Artistic Impersonator. I just dropped a featured story on him in the Philadelphia Front Page News, Black Geographic, which I'm tying everything into that, the newest magazine. So he's featured making the cover of what it's all about when it comes to geography, and blackness. So I just wanted to bring it out. And welcome back all our Philadelphia viewers and, of course, all those in other cities that stay with us.
Okay, so the other topic I wanted to bring up, and I had spoke to you earlier about this, Van. Back in 2014, there was a gentleman by the name of Eric Frayne out in Monroe County, which is one of the counties here in Pennsylvania, who I guess he basically ambushed the Pennsylvania state trooper, white guy. Sorry to put it that way, but there's no other way to put it. So he was sentenced to death, and just yesterday, the director of prisons, Mr. Wexel, here in Pennsylvania, signed his death warrant. So he is supposed to be executed on June 22nd. Now, here's the thing about that. The same year that this happened, or a year after this happened, our governor here in Pennsylvania, Governor Tom Wolf, put a moratorium on executions because, everything that's been coming out with, people that have wrongful convictions overturned and they were being released. So even though a death warrant was signed, this guy Frayne, he will not be executed. So I just wanted to both get you and Antoinette's opinion about that.
Okay. Antoinette, you want to go first?
Antoinette?
Antoinette, you there? Okay. I don't think she's there at the moment.
Okay.
All right. Well, basically, every person, makes a statement they're innocent. And when you have such a type of, I tell you, a type of sentencing based on the type of crime and violence and high violence, and then it ends into death. And then when you have law enforcement involved, it's really tough. So the thing is, you have a lot of people who are advocates for no longer the death penalty. And I guess, and so the governor, happens to be one of them and support that. So just believing that another life shouldn't be taken and stopping the situation, the death penalty. There's not really too much that I can add to that because if the death is going to be stopped, then at least the individual will be in prison for the rest of their life until either something is worked out or until that person dies. So that's my short answer on that.
Okay. So, excuse me. All right. Wow. So basically, like I said, what's going on is that even though they signed his death warrant, he's not going to be executed. And the thing is, well, you have to feel for the family of the trooper that was killed and the fact that they still have to deal with the fact that this person is alive, even though he took the life of their loved one, and that this individual is apparently, never going to receive what they would consider full justice. So, I'm a little torn both ways between, whether I'm for or against the death penalty. I really don't think the state should be killing anyone. That's one. But in those extreme cases where you cold-heartedly ambush another and take their life, if there were an instance where I would agree with the death penalty, it would be that. If you harm, ambush a person, or if you harm a child, those should be things, if there were ever a death penalty, those would need to be what they would be reserved for. Antoinette.
Did you say what you said?
No. I was trying to see if Antoinette was back on.
Oh, okay. So I don't think your mic is back, or well.
Let me see if it's something on my end. No,
well, I don't hear her. I don't hear her.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah. The short of it is when you take someone's life and you're vicious. The bottom line, and all the facts are there. There's no discrepancy. Then, yes, a life for a life. So the execution should take place. And the problem is people will continue to act and behave in such a way that they'll have time to think about what's going to happen to them after they do what they do. So that's the situation. You know, it's not even about whether they're supposed to do it or not. If the society is set up where, again, this is where we talk about privilege. You know, the society sets it up where you have a privilege to go and take somebody's life or whatever, and then you get to just stay alive, and whatever the royal treatment is and being alive, and however, wherever they put you in jail, you know, it's just heartbreaking. But that's why they have to be very careful when they place the persons in jail, because as you know, there were several people who they were gotten to, and they end up getting killed. They call that, you know, jail justice or street justice or whatever, but it still doesn't stop the senseless death from happening. So that's it's most of the things that happens here in America. Again, America is a Christian country. That's very important for all of you Christians or people who profess to be Christians, for you as a Christian to understand. There's so much that is so unfair that happens by the hands of Christians. And it's like the abuse just goes on and on as being a so-called Christian. So if you're against, you know, someone's life being taken because you're following the New Testament, and so now that person should just die out after they done, you know, wrongfully did this terrible deed. We, you know, as citizens don't have any control over that. That's what the terrible thing is. So no matter how careful you try to be, you have a maniac who can just go out there and get angry for whatever reason, and then it has nothing to do most of the time with mental health. That's another thing when we say privilege. You can just go out there and kill somebody, and if you are of one race, then right away we got to look at mental health. If you're of another race, it's just no question. You're going to pay for what you did. That's the problem, you know. And I know we don't have much time, but maybe if we do the next show again tomorrow or the day after, I just wanted to tie in what we had talked about yesterday, and I think the day before, with the death of this young man who was viciously, you know, murdered by these two people who figured they have the privilege to just do whatever they want to do. And knowing that they had the privilege, they took that step. So the whole law enforcement thing has to be changed. And the politicians who are working locally, you just don't have the good politicians anymore. That's what I said. And I stand by that. This is Van Stone talking. This is my opinion. The back in the day politicians, they're older now, they're mature. When they were young, those were the real politicians. The ones that we have today, even though you might have some politicians who are older now just getting in to those positions, they're not a part of that, the real and the older, mature politician. That's what the problem is. So, because they should be working on changing the laws. You're just saying the same stuff. You're talking about criminal justice. You know, these are all the things that they tell you to work on. So if you're running for state rep or you're running for this or that, then you can just say the same thing. I worked on this, and then nobody really gets to see any of this stuff you're talking about. But it's on the books, but it's not changing anything. The direct law enforcement laws need to be changed so that this type of crazy thing can stop, especially against Black Americans. And that's the problem. You know, being part of the system, you have money, you fall into a certain position, you're getting paid guaranteed as a politician. You know, you can fake the game, fraudulent the game as if you care, but it doesn't matter to you, you know, and it's just so terrible. And then even now, and I'm going to conclude, because I said I was, from the top, with the next president situation right now, man, whoever is the next president, as far as the black agenda, it's not going to make a difference, because there was nothing really put in place to stop stuff like this that we're talking about. You know, all this money, all of a sudden, for every American, they have all this money. But when you talk about reparations, first thing they say, oh, how are you going to pay for it? We don't have enough money. We got to, you know, consider this and consider that. So what they should do in conclusion, as we continue to talk about the COVID-19, because the African Americans, since they call most of us African Americans, and the Latinos and Hispanics are suffering the most, basically what should happen, there should be two types of financial droppings. There should be droppings to every American, and then there should be this high financial ongoing dropping to African Americans and Latinos. And then just order everybody to stay at home, which means you would be paying everyone to stay at home.
Okay.
That would be it.
All right. We're about to go real quick. I'm going to see if Antoinette is back on the line, and to see if Antoinette, are you back? Okay, I might as well just drop the line. All right, Van, is there anything that you would like to say in closing?
Well, in closing, again, I would say do the best you can. You're not the only one. If you see this message, open up your mind a little bit. Try to take this time to be as close with your family and friends as you can. And we would like to say help us on the web. I wish I could really make that mean something, but it's just words. But, you know, just don't do anything that is an overreaction. And that's not even the right word to use, because, I mean, there's so much stress, and we know that right now. And we know that people who you thought you were closest to you, they have exposed themselves where they're not there. I know you're not receiving the phone calls from people you heard from all the time, and now all of a sudden with the virus, you don't hear from them anymore, you know. But this is a time for those who you know and love. You can't be with the ones you love the ones you with. That's a song. It's an old song. Luther Vandross did write that song, by the way, but he's more, you know, known for that song. So think of the lyrics and stay with us. We'll be bringing you the best information that we can, so at least you can try to get through day to day. That's my message for our listeners here.
Okay, I did just communicate with Antoinette. She's having an issue with her phone. She said she could hear us, but we can't hear her. So we're about to wrap up anyway. So
Okay.
we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully all our technical issues will be corrected. I'm not on camera right now because I'm about to go to a video. So thank you everybody for joining us on Philly Funk Radio on the station, and thank you for watching on the Facebook and YouTube. Good night, everybody. Now here's the video that we promised Mr. Bray Lenny and Mix Show right here on Philly Funk Radio.
I don't wanna see what you gon' have to say when I switch up how I act on you. Let the egos play. Got my eyes on the prize now. I'm just trying to reel it in. She wanna play in the jungle with me. She wanna touch my skin. I've been down and dirty, mama. Come and grab my hand. I got the sticky of the icky on me. Gon' pay the man. I don't smoke no weed. I don't do no drugs, but I sip the cup. If you feel it, make sure that you feel it. Make sure that it's real. Make sure when you grooving, no, you gon' dress a kill. Make sure that you feel it. Make sure that it's real. James to the 80s, cause I'm super fly. I don't smoke no weed, I don't do no drugs, but I sip the cup. If you feel it up, make sure that you feel it. Make sure that it's real. Make sure when you grooving, no, you don't just a kill. Make sure that you feel it. Make sure that it's real. If the stage was a game and we all had to play, I'ma go ahead and act the same. Make sure that you feel it. Make sure that it's real. Make sure when you grooving, no, you don't just a kill. Make sure that you feel it. Make sure that it's real. If the stage was a game and we all had to play, I'ma go ahead and act the same. Come on now. Hey, hey, I'm too fly, I'm too cool. Say hey, hey, I'm gon' dance, I'm gon' groove. Say hey, hey, if you down with the sound.